Greetings, this is Stasia Bliss. I wanted to talk a little bit about this Me Too awareness that has been going around, that is really shedding light on the larger issue of abuse, especially sexual abuse and sexual trauma and harassment that has been underlying society in the world for some time, that wants to come forward, that wants to be spoken to. And I think it's really important to address not only that this has been happening, that this has been a reality and that is a reality at this moment, but to look at the why, to look at the underpinning of why this has been occurring, and to explore that so that we might shift this in the larger picture, underneath the surface. I feel it's important to shine the light of consciousness on the shadows as much as we can, not just in saying, yes, me too, but in saying, okay, what is the driving force behind this? If we look at a person who is putting themselves over, dominating, taking someone else by force in this manner, putting their power over the top of somebody else's and manipulating that. And in the case of this, in the sexual realm, so in the realm of, first let's talk about what sexuality is truly. I mean, this is a power that has been largely downplayed in its cosmic importance. I truly believe this is the energy that, made this whole thing begin, that we and all of existence was created from the power that we tap into in an intimate moment through our sexuality. And so there is this draw, this pull for each and every person to reconnect with this original power. And when we are really, truly honoring that power, and we are in union with someone else who honors that power as well, then we know that, realms can be open to us, that we can access such a state of oneness, such a remembrance of the truth of who we are, of where this all came from. We can also access through our bliss, through our orgasms, through our sexual connection, a creative energy that not only brings children in, but can create reality for us. So with that awareness, and that awareness having been so suppressed or covered or not talked about or not explored or not acknowledged in our reality as a whole, that's largely, not spoken of in our reality. So with that being so kind of hushed or quieted or not really understood, and certainly not taught to any extent, then there is this quiet wondering, this seeking, this knowing that there's something that I want in this connection. There's something that my body needs, wants, is trying to remember and reconnect with. And the woman generally has access more to that on her own, because of her cycles, because of her emotional body, because the womb is there, and having to address her own sexuality on a regular basis, especially when we come into puberty and our menses, and we're dealing on a constant basis of awareness of whether or not we are ovulating or have the ability to become pregnant. Like, we're very fine-tuned to our bodies in that way. And we also emanate and represent and are the temple in which the masculine comes into in order to, unite and feel that oneness. Coming back into the womb space, coming back into the mother vibe, the feminine, is where all creatures came from. So we all came from a womb. We all came from the mother. So I think there is this underlying drive of the masculine to want to return to that space. And if he has not been taught or is not aware of how to go toward that space in an honoring way, that's never been taught, that honor should be part of that, that instead we're showing that we should honor, the taking of life in cases like war. If you look up honor on Google, the images you see are purely almost all military and army images, of soldiers, and that we hold in great and high esteem the idea of taking innocent life, under the guise of protecting freedoms in a nation and so forth. But the idea of honoring a woman and honoring a woman's body and sexuality has not been taught. So there is this place, I believe, in the masculine unconscious where he is uncertain how to retrieve or access that basic divine power that he knows is within him, and he senses it, and even senses it from the woman, that the woman is somehow a carrier of that. And since he has not been taught how to honor, and I'm not, of course, talking to every man, because some men have been taught, but there is a large dominant masculine awareness that is unaware of how to access this, how to honor and find that connection with woman. And maybe he even feels unworthy of it on some level. Maybe he feels like if he tried to honor and ask for it, it would not be granted him. And that could come from childhood. That could come from social programming. That could come from, ancestry, or whatever it comes from. It is a deep driving force that says, if I don't just take this thing, I'm not going to be given it. And she has it and I need it. Therefore, I'm, unconsciously going after, and I'm even going to try to take it for myself. Now, of course, when this sexual experience is taken by force or is demanded, or there's a dominating essence, and even if it isn't, completed in a coupling, even if it is just a harassment in that direction, there is a violence there. It is not in the same vein as the actual energy that is wanted, which is a remembrance of the oneness, which is a remembrance of that divine creative capacity that is inherent in every human. And so the experience is unfulfilling. And so this is why we might see a repeated perpetrator, because if he goes after, and this can be a she going after too, and it's just the masculine force going. The feminine is the opening, is the receptive one. And sometimes there's a dominant and a female that is going after that receptive and a masculine. It can be either way. I'm just speaking in terms of how we're seeing it show up right now, where so many women are saying, me too. And I'm with that. Me too. I have been approached this way. I have been dominated this way. I've been, abused in this way as well. And I actually don't think that there's any women that have not been harassed sexually or abused sexually or taken advantage of sexually in one way or another in their lifetime. I do work on the level of clearing traumas and emotions. And when I first started doing this work, I had deep soul tears, recognizing that it was pretty much across the board that the sisters had experienced this trauma at one level or another in their life, and sometimes very young. And so with that awareness, and that we're coming into the light of this awareness more, what can we do? First, we can acknowledge that every human has this deep desire and inner craving to reunite with that one energy of creation, with the oneness, with the divine source. And many have been at a loss at how to do that. And the women represent that energy. We do. We are the embodiment of that beautiful divine temple of the feminine, the receptive, the place from which we all came from, and like literally the womb, and also as the greater energy of wholeness. So can we just start in this moment to remember that, and maybe have some compassion for those who have not been able to remember that in themselves, and who have been falsely taught or indoctrinated to not understand or properly honor the feminine. And let's make a choice right now to shift that in our cultures, in our cultures, in our societies, in our families, in our gatherings, in our world. Just one of us at a time, each one of us saying, yes, I do want to remember that. I'm remembering that now. I'm choosing to have compassion now for the aspect of the whole that has forgotten and has believed that they had to forcefully take what they already have within. They already have access to it. And when we are in deep communion with our divine, then we can see that in another, and a soft place opens, and we don't feel like we have to be forceful or take. We seek for that connection, and we draw it into ourselves. So I think this is indicative of a massive healing that's needing to take place, not only to call out the abuse has happened, and not only to point fingers and ask the masculine to step up and own this. Not only that, but to acknowledge that we're ready to tip the scales back toward the remembrance of what we truly desire in these bodies and as humans, is to remember our divine connectivity. And for women to remember that they are portals of the divine goddess, of the divine wholeness, and that the masculine and the feminine coming together in whatever way that looks, however that looks in form, is a sacred act akin to the creation of the universe in a microcosmic experience. So breathing into that, I'm calling forth a deep healing in the sexual organs and hearts and minds of all of humanity. I ask you to do that with me right now. A clearing, let it be that the traumas of these things be released from the collective whole, that we more fully can remember the truth of who we are and claim our divine beauty and honor that in one another. And let's say, me too, to that awareness. Love you. We're doing this healing work all together. Thank you for speaking up. Everyone who has, let's just continue to move forward. Namaste, y'all. I love you.